The seed for this world appearance is the egosense, for this tree of world appearance grows from the egosense. Last time I ended by talking about the non-materiality of the world. Look into what you understand as physical reality. It's actually emotional reality. It's an emotional reality disguised by our notions. We've got notions of reality, and we invest these notions with our emotions. The very idea that there's a self, an individual, and an external world is arguably a recent Western phenomenon. It's more than likely that our ancestors did not distinguish between the contents of their own mind and a physical reality. This is why we had mythologies. Reality was a much more fluid, less concrete affair. So notions of reality are culturally determined. And the one that we've got, which we could call the scientific one, although it's a rather outmoded scientific one, it's probably what we could call a Newtonian. We have a Newtonian understanding of reality. We haven't quite caught up with the quantum reality. We still like to think in terms of everything's pretty solid and it's all made up of little billiard balls banging into each other. These are atoms. It's all a bunch of atoms banging into each other. That's it. That's reality. Bits of matter banging into each other. That tends to be, I think, what underlies the picture of reality of those of us in the West that regard ourselves as realistic, and intelligent. There isn't anything else going on, it's just a law of matter banging around. So this is the ego sense. The seed for this world appearance is the ego sense. For this tree of world appearance grows from the ego sense. And that ego sense is our underlying passions, our underlying infatuations, our underlying fetishes. The senses and their objects, the various forms of conditioning, heaven and earth with its mountains, oceans, etc., the divisions of time, and all the names and forms are different parts of this tree of world appearance. The parts that we've identified in accordance with our nature, which is our conditioning. When that seed is burnt, it gives rise to nothing. It isn't that the world just disappears and it's a big blank whiteness. We become established in reality, which is non-conceptual. So it gives rise to no concepts. How is this seed burnt? When you inquire into the nature of the ego sense, you realize that it is not to be seen. This is knowledge. By this fire of knowledge is the ego sense burnt. By entertaining the notion of ego sense, it appears to be and to give rise to the world appearance. When this false notion is abandoned, the ego sense disappears and self-knowledge arises. So by the fire of knowledge, entertaining the notion of ego sense. This sounds quite harmless, doesn't it? Bring it in for a cup of tea. But what it means is indulging the ego sense. What it means is indulging our underlying tendencies rather than examining them. So we don't indulge the ego sense. We don't indulge these deep emotional reactions that we have. We look into them, we question them, and we do this from the point of view of our own sense of being. If you don't do it from your own sense of being, then you're just getting caught up in a game. There has to be some establishment in being before you can do this, and that establishment in being is self-knowledge. In the very beginning of this world appearance, the ego sense did not exist as a reality. Then how can we believe in the existence of the ego sense in the reality of I and you, and in duality or non-duality? They who seriously and earnestly strive to realize the truth, after having duly received it from the lips of a preceptor, and having studied it in the scriptures, easily attain this self-knowledge. All it's saying is there's no basis for the existence of this ego sense. This is another way of looking at it. It's not an intellectual viewpoint that's being posited here. It's an emotional viewpoint. It's looking at reasons for indulging our emotions. The ego sense is not a simple bunch of ideas, it's a bundle of emotions. Shame, vanity, lust, greed. These are some of the descriptions. Anger. Anger is something that's been given a lot of prominence these days. And it's an interesting one. So these are the things we can look at. These are the ego sense. What there is when we start looking is what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. There's this pain body. And this is what we have to look beyond. This is the challenge. Most of us are in avoidance of this pain body. It's what drives us into intellectualism, into the pursuit of pleasure. And this is what's driving us all, this pain body. But if we can look beyond the pain body, then we're on our way. This is self-knowledge that we're coming into contact with. What appears to be the world is the expansion of one's own notions or thoughts. Sankalpa is the word here. Sankalpa, or notions or thoughts. And don't forget this emotional component which drives them. They're not just thoughts harmlessly floating around. They're driven by intense need, intense passion. What appears to be the world, it is based on consciousness. It is an optical illusion which has consciousness for its substratum. If you're a thirsty man, if you're dying of thirst and you see a mirage, you're going to go scampering after that mirage. Even if part of you knows it's not real, it's your only hope. So you go scampering after it. But it's an optical illusion. The whole world is an optical illusion. The world appearance is an optical illusion which has consciousness for its substratum. Hence it is regarded as both real and unreal. In the bracelet, gold is the truth, and bracelet is but an idea or notion. Thus, both the appearance and the disappearance of this world illusion are but the modifications of the idea. He who has realized this is disinterested in the delights of this world or heaven. This is his last incarnation.